Hello and welcome to week 12 of SEPS 789-889. And briefly, before we go over a few notes, I thought we'd do something a little different this evening. I've posted a PowerPoint in Blackboard with notes in it instead of narrating it. And then I've also posted this document in here for you to use as a reference. But I wanted to have a little bit of discussion about what's in this document and things that I'm looking for in your final project. You know, your final project is to be a short, it doesn't have to be a really long training module, but it should be a module that shows that you know how to start, with the first steps and take the learner through steps to completing one particular task. So some things that you want to really consider when you're trying to do your training. We always say in education and in training that you want to start with the end in mind. You want to know where you want your learner to end up, and then think the steps backwards to where you want them, where they need to start and how they can get to the end. The classic example is the training where they always ask people, how do you make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? And people say, well, you put peanut butter on one side and jelly on the other, but they don't start at the very beginning and think about, you have to have a jar of peanut butter, you get the jar of jelly out of the refrigerator, you have to have a knife, you have to have the bread. So that kind of stuff is what you really want to think about, the minutia, the things that we take for granted that we need to provide our learner. So we want to think about what's going to be the best way for me to train a person to do the particular task that I have in mind. If it's a very hands-on task, or if it's something that's very technology related, what's going to be the best technology out there to help me get this point across to my learner so they know what they need to do. And which training is best for you? Is it something that you could use a narrated PowerPoint, something that you could make a video and embed some type of evaluation in? Or do you need something that's more sophisticated and more web-based for your learner? So we've talked about some of the things that deal with computer-based training, which was the original type of training that used CDs or DVDs to train people, and then they went through a series of steps to answer the question, to web-based training, which we have today because of the explosion of the internet and the accessibility of computer tools. So it's really gone a long way. But the important things to remember about this is that it's very usually considered what they call rich media. It usually depends a lot on text, graphics, and animations. You can have streaming video and audio. It is considered to be a very active type of training, so the learner is not as passive. You also have simulations, discussion forums, and emails. So some of the things that you want to think about when you're looking for a good design for your web-based training or computer-based training is to look through these steps and think about what you are, what you want to have and how do you want to engage your learner. You have to think about the learning style of your learner. If you're trying to train, as some in this class are doing, if you're working with physicians or highly trained professionals, maybe engineers, that kind of training is going to be much different than the training that I would develop for a group of 8th grade students in a math class. So you have to tailor your training to the learning styles, the education, and the age experience of your learners. So like I said, this is all posted in Blackboard, but it's important things that you need to remember. The reason I wanted to give you this document specifically is because we have these online learning tools that you can get for a free trial, not borrow, but get for a free trial. Captivate is by Adobe. If you click on this link right here, right next to the button where it says buy now, you can open that up and use it. It's a pretty easy tool to use. It's not too complicated, and some of you've probably used it before. It's pretty well known. Articulate, I really have never used, but it doesn't look that complicated to me. Camtasia is another tool that a lot of people use. It's been around for a while. It's by a company called TechSmith, and it seems to be a tool that is relatively easy to use. The tool I'm using right now is Screencast-O-Matic, and as you can see, it does have some really nice opportunities to it. You could make a PowerPoint, or you could actually use some streaming media and put it in here and have it be part of your screencast. If you do anything that's going to be longer than 15 minutes and you don't want to have the little Screencast-O-Matic logo at the bottom, for $15 a year, you can have a pro account, as they call it. And what you do with the screencast things is pretty easy. You take them and you can just upload them to YouTube, and then it'll be a YouTube video that you have. So you save it to your hard drive, and then you just upload it to YouTube. You can use a lot of other tools to help you. PowerPoint actually has a lot of built-in tools that make it so much better for you if you have experience with using those, and you can make those into MP4 files too, so it just plays automatically. This is an article that I found on the internet that I thought would be very interesting for you to read, so I'm just going to kind of zip through it right here so that you just know it's here, because I don't want you to try to read it while I'm talking to you. But the other couple things that we wanted to talk about is I have this web page right here that deals with some tools that you could use, and I haven't tried most of these tools on here, but there are a lot of different tools out there that you could use if it's something that you've used. But like I said, for your project, you can use whatever tool you feel the most comfortable using. There's no requirement to use a specific one. So something that's very important, and something that most higher education places are struggling with nowadays, is making sure that your training education model is compliant. First of all, you have to have compliancy with the learning management system, or the different systems that higher ed uses or businesses use to promote their training. So there are two terms that you hear a lot. One is SCORM and the other one is AICC. And so I've provided the definitions here so that you understand, because people kind of throw this around and say, you know, SCORM compliant, and you're like, what are you talking about? This is what that is, and it's kind of an important thing to know. So what are the differences? SCORM is kind of a standard, and it's used to send and retrieve information. So if you are using some type of LMS, it's very important to ensure that you are compliant with that. This other one allows context to exist on a different server, but it moves it back and forth through the HTTPS, which is the secure type of transfer protocol. So that might be something that you need as a requirement for the type of training you're doing. Another very important thing, and something we'll talk a little bit more about next week, but dealing with students, you know, understanding the diversity of the people who are going to be your learners or your trainees. And so providing accessibility for students with disabilities is very important. Actually, I did not put the video in here directly. I just put the link because I wanted you to be able to see when you click on this link. It's very interesting that how they have presented it, because this is what higher education entities are attempting to ensure that they're able to provide to all their learners. It's not an inexpensive proposition. At my college, we have talked about it a lot. It's very expensive, just like with this video, to have a transcript if someone was hearing impaired and they needed a transcript because they could not understand what I was saying. Normally the cost for that is about $1 per minute. So, I'm only at 10 minutes here in this video, but if you think about it, if you have a 90-minute class that meets twice a week and meets for a 12-week or 15-week semester, next thing you know, you multiply that by the number of courses you have, it can be very expensive. So what we want to do is I'm going to try to get this page to come up if I can get the screen in the right place to fit on it. But what I like about the way they have this is that on the screen you see they've got the video, but they also have over here the very important things that you need for students who have any type of disability. You can get the video, you can get the YouTube, you can get a YouTube with the audio described so the listener knows what they are hearing. You can get a transcript of this video, and then it has publications that relate to it. So that's the interesting part of that I really want you to be able to look at this web page and see a little bit more about how they present things for learners who have disabilities. So that's really all I have for this evening, but the other information is posted in Blackboard. And as always, if you have a question or a comment or something that you just want to know a little bit more about, don't hesitate to email me and I will respond as quickly as I can. So thank you and have a good evening.